A year after Spider-Man 2 set a new standard for superhero gaming, Activision and Treyarch swing back into action with Ultimate Spider-Man. Based on Marvel's best-selling comic book series and working with the creative team behind it, Ultimate Spider-Man has a lot to live up to.
I'm so scared I can't even finish my lame joke.
Set in the Ultimate Universe created by Brian Michael Bendis, where Peter Parker is a 16-year-old kid struggling to come to terms with his new superpowers, the game cuts right to the chase with only a brief mention of Spider-Man's origin. Thankfully, Activision realized that we all know the origin and don't need to see it again. The story, narrated by Peter, voiced by Sean Marquette, jumps right into the relationship between Peter and young Eddie Brock Jr.
Our inheritance.
With a quick summary that took a long time to tell in the comics, the game picks up 3 months after the origin of Venom. Branching off from the original story, Ultimate Spider-Man makes itself open for anything to happen and anyone to show up. As promised, the game has a ton of Marvel characters, but the end may leave you asking for more. Instead of having to race the Human Torch 4 times, why not race Iron Man as well? They did cram in a bunch of characters, but a few more wouldn't hurt. As you unlock story missions, you are given a destination to travel to once you're ready. This may be Peter's home, school, or the Daily Bugle. Going there will trigger either a Spidey mission or a Venom mission that then pushes the story forward. However, you never encounter Aunt May at home or J. Jonah Jameson at the Bugle. The two are barely mentioned, but are a huge part of Peter Parker's everyday life. It was a little jarring to be put into the shoes of Spider-Man and not skip a deadline and get yelled at by JJ, or be late for dinner and get scolded by Aunt May, especially since he's only a 16-year-old high school kid with a curfew. Despite these omissions, the script by Bendis does deliver more well-defined characters, sharp humor,
Just once, a Huggy Bear instead of a big rhino.
obscure pop culture and comic book references,
Dark Hawk is faster than you.
and a great cast of actors. The game brings his words to life, and the story is fresh and entertaining.
Okay, fine, it's a nice suit. Sorry. Jeez.
Ultimate Spider-Man is very similar to its predecessor, Spider-Man 2. You have a slightly smaller New York City to swing through, and you can do pretty much whatever you want. The controls have some new tweaks, however. For starters, swinging has been simplified. By holding down the right trigger, you shoot a web and swing from it, and you let go to break Spidey free. It's only a minor change, but Spider-Man 2 veterans would be tapping the swing button going nowhere, and then pushing the jump button to break their web line. But they might appreciate the new ability to climb your web line to gain more height while web slinging. Another surprising change from Spider-Man 2 is the lack of a charge jump and sprint button, two things that fans of the old game will also be looking for. But the story explains that Peter hasn't fully mastered his powers, and therefore will not be able to do everything he could do before. Still, these features are missed. The biggest addition to Ultimate is the ability to play as Venom. Instead of making him a mirror of Spider-Man and having them both swing around New York, they made Venom's gameplay completely different. Venom travels by jumping huge distances, and he can leap several city blocks and even completely over buildings. It takes a bit to get used to the controls, but within minutes you'll be hurling yourself from rooftop to rooftop, landing on a dime. You have tentacles to fight with also. The Venom suit Eddie wears is consuming him, and to prolong his life he must find innocents to feed on. As you hop from roof to roof, you'll have to make a pit stop here and there to eat bystanders that try to run from you. The Venom missions are a little short and end just when you're starting to get into them, but once you finish the game, you can switch to Venom whenever you want, as long as you can stay alive by consuming terrified pedestrians. Spider-Man 2 made you acquire a specific number of points any way you wanted to start each story mission. You could stop random crimes, complete timed races, or collect hidden tokens. Ultimate Spider-Man leaves you to do a set number of these to advance the story. This takes away from the game's freedom a bit. It never asks for many of these either, so it is extremely easy to access each new level. Having higher requirements to enter each mission could have prolonged the story mode. Instead, you can probably burn through the game in about 6 to 7 hours, making it just about the same size, maybe even smaller, than Spider-Man 2. They have also drastically cut down on the random crime in New York. There were times in Spider-Man 2 when 2 to 3 crimes were happening at once, even if they often repeated themselves. Instead of adding fresh crimes to Ultimate Spider-Man, they cut down on them. You can swing around for 2 to 3 minutes without anything happening. They did combine a couple of events though to spice it up, like when there are robbers on a roof and a civilian is hanging from it. and emergency events now feature lift meters that give you a scale that you have to use to lift cars or open doors to rescue helpless victims. But in the end, the lack of crimes means it's harder to get caught cleaning up New York one crime at a time for hours. From the comic book animation to the story panels dashing across the screen during cutscenes and gameplay, the Ultimate Spider-Man series truly comes alive in this game. Mark Bagley, who has been drawing the Ultimate series from the beginning, creatively supervised the overall look and feel of the game. While the cinemas are mesmerizing and full of energy, the in-game panels that pop up periodically will catch you by surprise. When fighting a supervillain or perhaps riding on a runaway car, a panel may flash to show you something useful. This can make some of the boss battles more epic and cinematic. Ultimate Spider-Man goes to great lengths to make you feel like you're playing a comic book, and although it can be distracting, it succeeds with flying colors. While New York is slightly smaller this time around, they added Queens to the map, young Peter's stomping grounds. The whole city also feels a lot more diverse. The buildings vary a great deal, and there are a lot more Marvel landmarks like Midtown High, the Fantastic Four's Baxter Building, and even the creepy house of Doctor Strange. The character animations do an amazing job of separating the two playable characters. As you swing or jump around New York, Spidey's webs hang in the wind after you leave them behind. Venom leaves potholes wherever he lands and claw marks as he climbs buildings. Spidey fluidly performs his airborne acrobatics and gets tugged by each swing on a web line. Venom's body language and presence makes you feel like you're controlling a 400-pound monster of mass destruction. These touches make Ultimate Spider-Man a unique and immersive experience. While the story mode is a bit on the short and easy side, Ultimate Spider-Man still has a lot to offer. The city is littered with collectible tokens that unlock extra features, trick races with Tony Hawk-like addiction, combat tours that get more and more challenging, and a few other surprises that should keep you playing long after you've beaten the game. It's a great purchase for fans of Spider-Man comics and video games. Happy web slinging.